So I used to be a registered nurse, and really glad I'm not working in healthcare right at this moment. But I became so much more excited about people who really had the capacity to make changes in their own life and really wanted to go for being fully alive while they're here. And so I became a sex and intimacy coach, and I teach tantric body work. I do sexual healing work, and then I've been leading this group, Ritual Tantra, for the last few years, putting on all sorts of events and classes, and it's just been beautiful to see the opening in people. This is subject matter that's very near and dear to my heart, being kind of a coming out of my repressive Catholic upbringing and getting to realize, like, oh wow, I can be a sexual being and a spiritual being at the same time, and just seeing how much more there was for me to expand into myself, into my power, into my own connection with my body, into just exquisite connections with others. I've just been continuing to learn more about just what holds me back and what allows me to flower. And I just love getting to create spaces where people can flower more into themselves and feel more safe to unfold and unfurl and let down all the shields. And also recently started doing work with shamanic journeying, so doing one-on-one sessions with people, which has been really, really just such a blessing, and getting to, again, just find ways to drop the armor. So thrilled to be here to share what I've got, and been really loving co-creating with this wild Joshua character who I've been, has it been like a year so far we've been working together?
A little over a year.
So I love how we kind of are like the yin to the yang, and I get to let him do his thing and he gets to let me do my thing. So we're glad to have you guys here.
Our things fit together really well. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you, Leslie.
How about you, Joshua? What are you up to? What do you do?
Oh man, well, I came to the path of Tantra via very sort of different routes than most of the Tantra teachers I know, in terms of my own meditation practice, my non-dual meditation practice for 20 years, my martial arts practice in Shaolin, the temple tradition of Shaolin Kung Fu, my somatic psychotherapy work, and my practice and sharing and teaching of nonviolent communication over the last 15 years, which I've rebranded, and I call it No Bullshit Communication. I have a brand called masteryourbullshit.com, where I teach people how to have, where the marriage of compassion and power is in terms of really authentic communication, being an authentic communicator and a deep listener. And so it's really fun when I meet sexy tantric goddesses like Leslie, and we can have these conversations from such completely different directions, and have them be so complementary, and have what we have to share be so fit together so beautifully. And let me tell you, I was really spiritual in my 20s. I was like really spiritual, like probably too spiritual for this group. And was like, did all these celibacy vows and was doing all kinds of spiritual practice. And little did I know how totally divorced from my sexual energy I was, and from my like really owning the just raw power of my sex. And so having throughout my 30s and into my 40s really become much more congruent with myself, and allow that sexual energy to be an integral part of my spiritual practice. And my growth has been one of the most profound journeys of my life. And I want everybody to have God orgasms and full capacity for really including the orgasmic beauty of our scariest trauma in our relationships. This is kind of a segue into our quick and dirty intro of Tantra. Leslie, you want to take that away?
Our quick and dirty intro to Tantra. Oh my gosh. Everybody, I just want to start out by saying there are a million different ways to define Tantra. And there's a big difference between the world of classical Tantra, the deep, profound spiritual path that requires, having a teacher and serious lineage that you work with, and the realms of Neo-Tantra, which is more what we're talking about. But there's a deep intersection there that we're aiming at, right? That this is not about just having fun. This is not about having great sex, having this. Yes, we want you to deepen into yourself and deepen into your intimate life in all those ways. But it's also about getting down into all the places in yourself where you find yourself closed, where you find yourself resisting life, resisting your partner, what's going on in your partnership. What we're most wanting people to develop is kind of this warrior spirit that's I'm willing to step in, both feet in, standing in the fire of my relationship, and for all the beauty of it, for all the challenge of it, and really to develop that resilience to find what's true in the midst of all the pieces that are always like crunching and moving, and you know, finding that friction, finding that alchemy, that crunch, that shift that only our partnership can really bring us into, right? So for me, Tantra is a path of coming down and into the body, and welcoming everything that we find here, welcoming everything that we know about ourselves, everything that we don't yet know about ourselves, welcoming these bodies as sacred, welcoming our emotions, whether they're exalted or they're, you know, just the scariest, sad parts of ourselves that we don't want to face. Like really finding that place in ourselves that can hold all of it, and where our partnership can hold all of it. And for me, that's kind of like, that's where we're going for. Like we're not trying to like get to some spirituality out there somewhere. It's like, how do we really find the depth to embrace everything?
Yes. And that's really, and the essence of a tantric partnership, of being tantric consorts, is really that this person you've chosen to have be as your most intimate collaborator in your life right now is the beloved, is a perfect reflection of you, is bringing to you what you absolutely need to see, because none of us can see the back of our heads. And this person who you've chosen to walk with is an integral part of your awakening, of your learning how to die day in and day out to whatever was, and becoming more and more of the essence of what just continues to emerge, so that you both are surprising yourselves and each other day in and day out with what gets to emerge when you unhook from the patterned identities and behaviors, and you start to create more permission for life to evolve through you, and you get to see and embrace your beloved as the beloved. So that's really the deeper layers of the Tantra. And for Leslie and I, you know, we talk about practical Tantra, right? This is practical Tantra here. And so in our work of practical Tantra, there are basically 4 pillars that we're going to be continually practicing and playing with throughout the whole Honey Hive journey. The Hive is really going to be focused around these 4 pillars. And I'll say the 4 pillars now, and then we're going to go into each of them and do a little practice for each of these pillars. So the 4 pillars are the pillar of embodiment, coming into the body, getting out of our heads and our minds and our thinking and our abstractions, and coming into the experience of the intelligent body. The second pillar is communication, becoming exquisite listeners and incredibly compassionate and radically honest givers of feedback and sharers of our inner reality, so that there's nothing hidden and nothing withheld, and there's full room for everything that arises for our partner and for ourselves in our communication process. And the third pillar is intimacy as awakening practice. So really deepening into the non-dual, the breath practices, both the paradigm of partnership as awakening practice, and also the on-the-ground breathing practices and energy movement practices that help us to really deepen as a couple into this journey of dissolving into God together. And then the last one being a practice of radical, unlimited vision for the most beautiful relationship that we can imagine. And so creating a vision together, really consciously designing our relationship, and really consciously moving forward in our lives with practices that are going to reflect what it is that we want to create together as the most intimate collaborators in life.